Kia ora, I'm Helen MacDuff. I'm an artist working in the Bay of Plenty. I'm going to offer you an insight into my artistic practice, from the methods and the processes through to the underlying meanings in my work, and maybe a little bit about what makes me tick as an artist. You could classify my creations as being landscape based, although I do delve into other areas too. And I love that art is a visual form of storytelling, so my work often has a narrative behind it. My favourite media is most definitely oil paint. It's just so beautiful, the textures and the fact that it affords you time to realise the potential of, the rendering or the detail of a particular scene. Why landscape? Well, I come from a rural background, and I've always been surrounded by that as my subject matter, really. So from a tiny age I was drawing that kind of thing because it was the thing that most interested me, and also going sort of deeper into my psyche and my DNA, probably about 70% of it, is my Irish heritage. Half of my family came from Ireland. My dad's parents immigrated here from different places in Ireland. They met here, and that both those families had an affinity with the land because they were farmers going way back, and way back. We never knew any other way of life, really. It was always a connection to land, and unfortunately I feel like our oral traditions and the folklore and the stories were left in Ireland and they weren't carried on. So that's been something that has been of interest to me and that I've delved into and have actually embedded into my work, and it's now really a part of what I do. With my research into specific places, I must check that side of it out. History alongside folklore is history, so all of my artwork will usually have a sense of history. Everything has a sense of these things, although you might not literally see it on the surface of the work. It's deeply within it. So as I'm painting, step back, take a break, research into these stories, the people, the places of various sites that I'm interested in for whatever current concerns I have for these places, and that brings me into two other kind of things that are super important for me at the moment, and that is assemblage. Assemblage is so much fun. It's just brought my art practice to life, and it's a point of difference, really. As much as I love the traditional fine art, using oil paints to portray a scene and the scenic beauty, so to speak. I love the challenges afforded to me with found objects that are sustainable. You've brought them to life again. They bring life into your work, so they have a sense of history, of memory, and I love that you can pick something up and it's like, oh, who owned this prior, and why is it here now, and what life did that person have? So many questions. So I guess if I look around me here, my studio, it's a tiny alcove, but I love it. It's cozy and it's great. It's good for now, but maybe not when I'm doing big art. I need to figure out maybe my garage at the moment. So I love that I can use my little space as like a virtual mood board, and everything that I collect I can bring into it and just look at it for a while, and I'll be working away on a particular artwork and then something will strike me about something that I've been looking at for a while, and it's that's always moving. For example, fossicking around op shops is super fun, and can be a really cool catalyst and take me on new directions. Like all these old frames I collect, digging around my family's farm sheds, extended family, finding things like horseshoes and old fence posts and stuff like that. It offers a lot of possibilities. I'm into old books. I really love that there's a whole lot of knowledge in here that sadly has been discarded, but I'm taking it home with me. So now I'm giving it the care it deserves. And I have been doing a bit of collage work, although alongside my oil painting. It's a good little brain break for me, and just to get in and just have some fun with different materials. And they have like beautiful, you know, aged pages and things like that. Although this always happens, I get too attached and I don't want to rip them up. In this particular book, it's tales from Shakespeare, and it has a message in the front, which reads, "To Jean, with love from Mummy, day of the 8th of May 1945, victory in Europe." Wow, I'm just feeling the love, you know, that Mum gave this to her daughter. You know, one thing to sort of impart the value and the love of literature that is Shakespeare, and more importantly to mark, you know, victory in Europe. So all those things I brought up before about who are these people and why is this book now discarded, this is really special. Means that maybe if I'm not using it as a material in my work, maybe I can base one of my next themes on this whole connection between mother and daughter, and living through war, and having hope for the future. So yeah, motherhood's huge for me, leaving a legacy for my kids. I'm very aware of my mortality, and I guess you arrive at that when you're sort of post 30. I thought, you know, what's my purpose, what's my intent with my artwork? And one of the strongest driving forces was that I wanted to leave a legacy for my children. I wanted to address concerns that I think that they will also be faced with, so the environment. Yeah, making a stance against people who are not taking it as seriously as they should. So that brings me to my current work in the Miles Art Award. So that is about the mining of conservation land. You know, conservation land should not be touched. It should be what it says it is, and kept that way. We've entrusted the powers that be to protect it, but slowly and surely it's been compromised. It's insidious, and it goes on without people even knowing. You know, I heard rumours, people talking about helicopters going through the Coromandel and sending down big drills to take samples away with them, and this was about 10 years ago. And I said, surely not. You know, that can't be happening. Sure enough, it is, and these big multinationals are trying to get in there, and they are in Kaingahaki now, core sampling. I don't know where they're up to currently, but it's all go. You know, and when you think back to 1875 when the mining happened and it opened up and thousands of people moved there, took it over and started mining it. I mean, they were trying to make their way and survive. But the fact that it polluted the waterways and then created generations of goodness knows what to the people that lived in that environment, it's very, very sad, you know. And it's been healing over time. So when I painted that, I wanted to show all the people that were involved. So we had the Waitawhata, which is translated as the restless stream. That is the name of the stream, one of the streams there. The other is Ohunamuri, which means the girl left behind. So that's another little story from folklore. I won't talk about it today. It's huge and it's a beautiful story, so go have a look, find it. But the fact that, you know, Waitawhata, you know, the windows walk there, I remember going through it and not knowing why there were windows in the side of the rock. They'd been blown into the rock so that they could be used as a place to tip the waste, arsenic, cyanide, directly into the river and all downstream, killing everything in its wake. And this would happen a couple of times a day for God knows how many years. And, you know, the environment has healed since then. And so, you know, I used a Victorian frame which was from that time, and I took the mirror off it, and at first I was playing around with distressing the mirror and painting on that and carving into it and things, and then I thought, well, what am I doing? Let's just paint the scene. paint the place. So I painted on the wooden backing. It's really cool. And then of course the gold is X marks the spot. You know, the mine shafts everywhere. Mount Karanghaki is like an ant farm. If you look at the cross sections of it, it's just crazy how much they've taken from there. And a lot of the gold is actually subterranean, like under the water level. So that's kind of what they want to hit next. I put in a railway sleeper, so I love the worn away wood, and I blacked it out because black, for obvious reasons, is symbolic. And then next to that, from a villa of the area, of that actual time, one of the first villas, the person that owned it had some spare skirting boards, so I painted that, and that's part of that. So you know. And then I was nearly finished it, and it was a very dark piece, and I wanted to show hope for the future, that this healing can continue and not be compromised. So, and this is what I do. I was walking up the road here, and I live in a place that is quite lovely, and that there is a lot of natural beauty, and I was kind of thinking as I do, and I always pick up things like feathers. That's why I've got them all around here. Sometimes I'll go for a walk and there'll be like 5 that I'll pick up, and other times I'll go seeing nothing, but I'm just always a bit of a fossicker, I guess. But I'm deep in thought walking up the road. You know, how can I show that? You know, it's the 11th hour, so to speak, before I have to submit my work into the Miles Art Award. And then straight in front of me, I'm just looking up the road, and there are just kawa little bushes all the way up the road, and the light's shining on them, and I'm like, oh, of course, kawa, that amazing plant with all of its medicinal properties that Māori have been using for generations and generations to heal ailments. You know, that's it. So that became the main focal point of my artwork, and the fact that it's you know, the leaves with the most holes in it that were eaten by bugs are the ones that have the most concentration of medicinal properties that can heal. So that is kind of a little weird parallel with the actual site that I explored. So yes, I've definitely got a bit of a mood board going on here. I've got all sorts of things collected, and it's forever changing and forever evolving. And so although my work will always have that sense of place, there will be a story, and often it's of a New Zealand origin, but there'll be little bits of me throughout it, and sometimes other things like poetry. So I love, you know, reading poetry, and sometimes that can take me on another little journey. I love this poet, Evan Boland. She's recently passed. She's amazing. Yeats, Jane Wilde, the mother of Oscar Wilde. She's also pretty cool. And all these little things that happen as I create and take me down the rabbit hole and into the creative world, and give my work originality and hopefully a timelessness. So I'm probably missing out a lot, but I think you get a sense of who I am and what I do, and hopefully that inspires you to pick up a brush yourself and maybe try some mixed media yourself.